What's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 35. And I am your host, Marcus. And in this episode, we're talking about you're wrong. Now, it's actually very funny because when I started thinking about this particular subject, it was something that I've been thinking about over the past 2 weeks or so, but just on people's judgment, or perhaps just your judgment. A lot of times, and I think this is something I've hit on before, about how you need to be extremely objective on different things in your life. And Marcus Aurelius talks about this as well. And he has a book, essentially his notes about meditations, and he talks about, being objective about certain things in your life. Like, you don't need an opinion about everything in your life. And it's funny that he puts it that way, because a lot of times we tend to forget we may have a strong opinion about something. And then a lot of times anytime someone is against our opinion, we step in and we essentially try to combat that, right? And try to provide our perspective. And some people, are fixed in their perspective, in their opinion, and you can't change that. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, right? If you have an opinion, that is your opinion. You can hold your own opinion, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the fact that a lot of times you are draining a lot of your energy trying to convince someone of your opinion and thinking that your opinion is correct. Now, your opinion may be correct for yourself. Your opinion may be correct for some other people, and it may not be for other people. Right? Some other people might have different perspectives, and we forget that everybody comes from different walks of life. And so they haven't lived life in your shoes. And the reasons why you have the opinion that you have today was because of things, people, events that have happened in your past that have essentially molded and formed you into this person who has these particular opinions. Now, when I'm talking about you're wrong, what I'm trying to say is that you need to be more objective about specific things, right? Not have such a strong opinion about something that you're going to drain your energy. Because a lot of times I talked about, managing your energy levels and how important that is, because you only get so much energy throughout the day. And that energy should go to those things that are a priority to you, right? I talk about having daily tasks to execute and achieve those things that you want in your life. But you have to manage your energy, and that essentially is divided into your priorities, right? You should have 2 or 3 major priorities. And if you have kids, right, that one of them is already taken up. So you have maybe 2, maybe even 1, right? Kids in themselves take up a lot of energy. So you have to understand you're going to have to manage your energy the best. And so whatever it is that you really want, and when I'm talking about objectives and something you want to achieve, right, you have to be really almost obsessed with that thing that you want, right? All your focus should go to that one thing. So just an example, if you have kids and you want to learn a particular skill, right, every moment that is not given to those kids, you need to dedicate, right? Maybe you only have an hour, maybe you only have 30 minutes in your day to yourself. That should be dedicated to that one thing that is a priority in your life. And again, priority is extremely important, because if it's not a priority in your life, it will fall further down, essentially the pole, right? And understand that it will be neglected at some point. And so if you want it to stay fixed in your life, if you want it to be a part of your life, you have to make it a priority. And again, when I'm talking about when you're dealing with opinions and stuff like that, you want to be objective, because you don't want to be spending the energy, because you know that thing, that goal, that objective that you're trying to do each and every day that is a priority for you, if you are coming at things that you got to provide an opinion or perspective on something, and you're draining energy where you don't need to be. Because a lot of times you find that, again, some people may be very fixed in their opinions, so you're fighting an uphill battle that it's not going to win. And it's not saying that they are right or you are right? It's your opinion because of your experiences, and there is nothing wrong with that. And no one should force their opinion on you, nor should you force your opinion on somebody else. And so, being said, I'm not saying that you are wrong in particular. What I'm saying is we need to come at things more objectively. and stop trying to feel like we have to push our own agenda on things, right? Like you have something you're trying to complete in life. You need to be obsessed with that thing. You need to make that thing a priority in your life. And opinions, they don't matter, right? And when you're trying to achieve these things, right, people are going to give you their opinion, whether you want it or not. And being said, you should still always be respectful. But again, you don't want to or essentially expend that energy trying to push a viewpoint or push something that you believe to be true upon somebody else. If somebody asks, yes, I'll show you my perspective. I'll talk about my perspective, or I'll let you know which side I stand on, or whatever the case. But it should never be lead up to confrontation, because you're again expending energy that doesn't need to be spent there, and focus on something other than that. But when you're saying this, when you're talking about this, you have to realize that they can coexist, right? That the different opinions can coexist. And a lot of times we don't think it's that way. And I don't know if this is something that has essentially happened since we were kids, because everything is either black or white, right? Like it has to be right or it has to be wrong. And I think growing up as kids, there is no gray area. We're taught from a young age. Either you do this or it's wrong. And we are fed an agenda that I think feeds off of that. So everything, you have this filter. So everything you look at in life, nothing can be, it has to be either one way or the other. There is no in between, and they can't go parallel with each other. And you find that this is bleeding over into everything. And this is where people get very fixated in opinions. And I myself, right, there are certain things I do believe. And there's certain things I talk about on my channel, on the podcast and everything else, talking about, you need to come at everything with a view of that person has value, right? And that they can tell you something new. They come from a different experience point, a different perspective in life that perhaps could help you. Even if you know something about the subject, they could possibly give you a tip or whatever the case is to make life much better, and perhaps completely even change the way you looked at something that you've possibly been doing for a very long time. And so being said, what I think is so important is to not fall in this essential camp of where you are judging about specific objectives, that realizing that everything can coexist, everything can exist in one space, right? You don't have to disagree with somebody. If that's their opinion, that is their opinion. We ourselves, even myself, everything I teach on all the things, all the different platforms that I have, right there, I utilize these tools, I utilize these perspectives, and I have to audit myself and make sure that I am doing it myself, right? Because even though I talk about these things, I don't always 110% execute on them, right? There are times when I can get very opinionated, and I will stick to my guns on something, right? When someone is forcing, sometimes you tend to do that more than you particularly may want to, right? It brings you out of character sometimes. And so it's constantly correcting that thing. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about all these different tools and perspectives and different things, is that you have to realize that you won't always be 100% on these things. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that your perspective can change. A lot of these different things in your life can change. So don't feel like you can't, or feel like if you have put down your guard and you're going out of character, that's who you are. You have to realize that you try to bring your best every single day. And I talk about this, right? Your best every single day isn't going to always be the same, right? Your levels of your best is going to differ from day to day. Maybe you won't get enough sleep that night. Maybe you ate something wrong the night before. Maybe you feel sick. Maybe, there's a lot of different things, but it's not saying that you should use that as an excuse, but it's saying that what ultimately needs to happen is that what you need to be doing is just trying to bring your best for that day and be okay with the result. As long as you know you've put forth your best effort to try to do that, that's what you should do. And again, I always try to audit myself. I always try to fix the things that I feel aren't going like I want them to. And I replay the day in my head each and every day. Right, that's something I talk about is having that loop back at the end of your day, replay your day. What could I have corrected? What can I redo? And see, right? Maybe even look and see throughout your day where you're expending energy where it doesn't need to go. And trying to replay that particular scenario in your head so the next time that event comes up, you're quick to pick up on it. When you're aware of what you are doing, you're quick to pick up on it and realize, okay, well, last time I made this decision and it triggered me to do this, and that's not what I wanted the outcome to be. So now I know I need, here's that trigger. I need to go this other way to get the outcome that I want to do. And this is where awareness comes in. This is where realizing that, again, we are all very different. And I think a lot of times we tend to forget that. We think a lot of people have the same knowledge base as we have. And when you travel the world, when you see all different cultures around the world, you have to, there's very dramatic differences. Right now, you can go from the east to the west, you could go from the north to the south, and you can see differences. Where the way people act, the way people carry themselves, all around the world, it's all very different because of their experiences. But we tend to forget that people should have the same knowledge base as us. And we think that that is just the normal, when in fact it's not the normal. We've all had different parents. We've all had different upbringings. Some of us rode bikes growing up as kids. Some of us didn't. Some of us played video games, some didn't. Some of us were in sports, some didn't. All those things matter, and all those things build you into the character that you are today. Maybe some of us were neglected as kids. Right? Maybe we didn't have the loving parents that took us to baseball practice every single day. And so we learned sportsmanship, and we learned how to be a great leader and of just talking to us. But we have to understand that everybody comes from different walks of life. And we can't hold that against somebody, that whatever somebody wants to do. And this is one of the biggest things, I think, why I bring this up so much and why I wanted to make a podcast out of this is because a lot of times, even when I talk about like entrepreneurship wasn't something I really knew about until I got older. I remember hearing about it. I remember my uncle doing specific like entrepreneurial things, but I was never actually learned about it. I was always taught that, no, you should get a good job and work the rest of your life and get a pension. That's what you should do for your life. And that's what I was fed as a young kid. And if it wasn't that, it was wrong. And I think we are all fed this story in that if we try to fight it, we are wrong, that things can't be in parallel. Yes, I do believe that everybody should. Not everybody's an entrepreneur. I get that. Not everybody's self-motivated. People don't want that much responsibility. People just want to go to work, do their job, and get off, right? Or people do want to open a business, or they want to venture out on their own. What is so wrong about that? It has a lot of, none of it even affects you, but yet we hold judgment on people for the things that they do in their lives. And why? We spend energy on stuff we don't need to be spending energy on, as opposed to focusing on our life. And a lot of the stuff that I talk and I teach about is inner work, right? We're so fixated on trying to change the world. You can't change the world, right? It's something I've gone back to talk about how hard it is to change yourself. What makes you think you're going to change anybody or even the world for that matter? It's not going to happen. You want to see change in the world, you make the change in yourself. That is what matters. That's where true change comes from, is realizing that people come from different walks of life. And I mean, you really want to get scientific about everything, right? We're all energy anyway. It's proven facts. We're energy. And as as frou-frou as that sounds, it's scientifically proven. It goes into a whole different possibilities of what's really going on in the world. But yet we will sit here and we will fall victim on different thoughts and ideas about, well, they're wrong and this is the way things should be. Why should they be that way? You know, think about what made you think that that was the correct way it had to be, and that there could be nothing else in parallel with that would be correct, because it would be wrong, or there would be no gray area. It would just be wrong. Define what is really wrong, and why do you think it's really wrong? Pros and cons. This even goes back to things like the plant-based diet and stuff. For the longest time, I thought being vegan was a very negative thing, right? The spotlights on veganism is, in my mind, was always painted very badly, very poorly, in a poor light. I wanted nothing to do with it, but I was at a turning point in my life where I had to make a dramatic change in my health. And to be able to do that, I made the leap into plant-based to be able to do that, to make myself healthier through only eating plants. Now, anybody can come on my YouTube channel or listen to the podcast and they hear this thing and they're like, well, that's just ridiculous. Why could someone do that? And it's funny because I was there at one point, and not long ago. I've only been vegan for about 4 years now. But before that, I could never imagine myself being plant-based. I could never believe it, because the negative connotation associated with that, right? So being said, it held me back. And a lot of times, a lot of the choices we want to make in life are the same way. We're afraid. Society has made us afraid to venture out. Society has made us afraid to have our own opinion, in that we always feel like we have to protect certain things, but things can't run in parallel. Why can things not run in parallel with each other? Why can't things be in harmony with each other? There's always got to be conflict. Why is there so much conflict? That's not saying I live carefree and there's no confrontation in my life. There's confrontation every day, right? There's always something. Again, I just talked about how I have to correct myself and how I have to make sure that I'm living up to my full potential. And to be able to do that, I have to correct these thoughts and ideas about somebody's opinion. And I've been very good at that. I've never really judged anybody on their opinion. I'm like, well, that's that person. That's what they believe in. That's fine. I've never held anybody down or anything like that for believing in something. That's what you believe in. And I have that understanding that you come from a different walk of life. You've experienced different things in your life. It's what led you to believe that. I don't know the whole story. And it goes for anything, right? And we get fixated on movie stars and, sports athletes and all these other different things that we dream about becoming one day. And then we aren't those things, but it's painted in a spotlight, and we forget that, they go through a lot of ups and downs and turbulence just like we do. Their perspective is not different. Why, you even want to talk about someone like Tiger Woods, right? As a young kid, all he did was play golf. That's all he did. Could you live a life like that? What would your perspective be if that is all you did for your life? It would be very different. We don't know how it would turn out. Because our environment, and this is why I talk about our environment so much, because it matters. The people that are in your lives, the environment that you are in, it matters. It plays a dramatic role on the way you perceive the world, on the way you go in the world, and what you're going to try to see. And this can hold you back from doing a lot. It's going to hold you back for wanting to write a book, right? Maybe you were going to be this great author, but you didn't because of beliefs, because of your environment, that is wrong, that if you do this and go out and venture, someone's going to judge you, and then your whole world's going to be torn apart, right? These are all different thoughts and ideas. This is where the fear is generated from, is from the growing up and these thoughts and ideas and fostering. And maybe there was something in your past that you tried to venture out, and someone told you no. Someone told you it's not possible. Maybe it was your friends, maybe it was your family, maybe it was your parents or coworker, whoever the case is. But whoever that person is, you have to realize that what's going on is you're not allowed to make the change that you want in your life. So where you need to go from here is to realize that you have to audit yourself. You have to constantly be doing this. You have to constantly be aware of this. And meditation helps, right? Bringing yourself into the now. Anytime you do breath work or meditation, these things help you focus on the now. And this is why it is so important, even for myself. I didn't know really what awareness was. I mean, I know what it was, but I never made the changes, right? Because a lot of times you go on autopilot, and so you just continue to make the same changes. You wonder why your life doesn't change. It's doing the work, doing meditation, doing breath work, doing some form of mindfulness to help you focus on the moment where the change can be made. Then once you're aware and start making the changes that you want, you have to realize that it is slowly going to change. And that things can exist, right? Everything can run together. It's not black and white, right? We don't need to fight it anymore. And I think that is the biggest message I'm trying to relay here, is that we don't need to fight it anymore. What we need to do is allow everybody to live their lives and realize that there is no black and white, that there is gray. And I'm not trying to sit on here and rant and say someone's correct or not incorrect, but just understand that, we are all wrong for trying to judge someone else for what they believe in. You're guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. It's correcting it and understanding that everybody can live how they want. And I have made a big change in this particular aspect. I've never, again, judged people for what they believed in or what they did. I'm sure whatever they were thinking in that moment, they felt was the right decision to make. And yes, whatever decision you make, there's going to be consequences, some worse than others. But for whatever reason, you made that choice. And you will deal with the consequences because you've made that choice. Right? Emotion does take over at times. And that is a whole other thing I probably need to make a whole episode on, is just emotion and the choices that we make based off of emotion. As emotion is extremely powerful and can cause you to do many different things that perhaps it takes you again out of character. But again, we have to understand, right, that we need to be the kind of people that are going to allow ourselves to let other people live their lives. Again, I have never pushed any kind of agenda on anybody. For anybody that listens to my stuff, I don't try to push any agenda. If I am, let me know. That's not what I try to do. What I try to do is share experiences, share perspective on what has worked for me. And it may not be the same. Well, my perspective and everything is now might change. I'm sure will change in 6 months from now, a year from now, 6 years from now. It's all going to change. It's never going to be the same. And so that's what's important, is to be mindful of that and be mindful of others and respect others. And also know that people should respect yours all in the same. So we're all wrong, we're all not wrong. But be mindful of that. and don't spend the energy on fighting an opinion that is somebody else's or even yours. Focus that energy on your priorities.